What's up, guys? Just wanted to film a quick intro to this podcast interview that I did with Shaun Hopper a while ago. Obviously, you can find it on iTunes and on the website, but I just wanted to post it up here as well. It's a really cool interview. It comes in at just about an hour long, and if you haven't already, be sure to check out his website and also the video that he is in on the Strength Camp YouTube channel. All right, enjoy. Welcome to the Six String Strength Podcast, where we pick the brains of today's top guitar players. My name is Zach Henderson, and we've got a really special episode for you today. This is my conversation with Shaun Hopper. And I first was exposed to Shaun's playing when he was a guest on the Strength Camp YouTube channel. And when I started putting this podcast together, he was definitely one of the top guys that I knew that I had to have on the show. And I'm super happy that not only did he agree to chat with me, but our conversation lasted much longer than we had anticipated. So rather than try to edit it down or break it into two parts or anything like that, I'm presenting it to you here in its entirety. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee or a tumbler, depending on what time of day it is, and enjoy my conversation with Mr. Shaun Hopper. All right, we have Mr. Shaun Hopper on the line. Shaun, how you doing today?
I'm good, Zach. How about you, buddy?
Hey, very well, very well. So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what kind of music you play.
Well, basically, my name's Shaun Hopper. I'm what they call a fingerstyle guitar player. I just consider myself a type of music maker, just to simplify it. But from South Georgia. I was born in a little small town called Adel, just north of Valdosta. And just grew up there, small town. Got exposed to music when I was about 11 years old, and dude was in the game room playing guitar, and I was like really impressed with it, and I just fell in love with the acoustic guitar, and that's kind of where that got started, and I've been doing it ever since. And now I try to play everything from whatever strikes me viscerally. Like if I listen to some Irish music and my body responds to it, my ears, my mind, then I want to absorb it. And it's like that with just about any style, any culture. I get into a lot of different stuff. It can be jazz, classical, funk, folk, blues, Irish music. I do this crazy percussive style, sometimes on the guitar, where I'll play like drums, bass, and melody, all of it, all inclusive at the same time on the instrument. People really get a kick out of that too when you play for them live. But it really all just comes down to one thing, and that's just expression. So regardless of whatever style you're playing, it all comes back to that. I think we're just trying to say something, and we're trying to express something, and we just choose the vessel, with what we want to pursue, which instrument, what style, all that stuff.
Absolutely. Now, have you always been, strictly a acoustic guitar player?
Yeah, for the most part, I just keep it to the acoustic. However, every once in a while, I'll sit in and jam with people. Like friends might call me up to play or something. I have an electric guitar. I'll go sit in and play some electric. But my love for acoustic guitars is where it's at, and I don't really consider myself a lead guitar player, even though I've played with people before, and I'll play like a solo or something, and people go, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing! You're a lead guitar player." I'm like, "Well, not really," but I appreciate it. But I'm not trying to criticize their assessment of me, but I guess the reason I wouldn't consider myself one is because I don't love it so much.
Sure.
That's probably why. But yeah, I've jammed with people. I played bass for about 11 years with country bands, rock bands, funk bands. Just so many different avenues I've been involved with, and it always just comes back to me playing the guitar just by myself on a stage, and I do my shows and stuff, my theater shows or my performances, and it's always just me on a guitar. But then I'll feature people. That's kind of what I like to do is play solo, do my thing. People go, "Oh my gosh, that's cool. He could do that on guitar. Wow!" And then I'll introduce someone, and I'll bring somebody out to play with me, or a chick singer with a really great voice. Just a way to keep variety going in the show, because people really seem to respond to that.
Yeah. So I guess when it came to developing your style, did you have teachers along the way, or would you say you were mostly self-taught, or a combination thereof?
Oh, I had a couple teachers, but basically what I would do is I wouldn't take lessons per se for very long. I would just pick their brain on a few things that interest me, and then they would show me, and I would use those things as influence, or those tools, and then I would try to create something with it on my own, as opposed to learning too much about any one thing or trying to copy something to a T. It never worked for me. If I sat down and, say, a particular guitar player played a song a certain way, and I really liked his or her arrangement, and I go, "Hey, I really want to play that. Will you teach me that?" Okay, they go to teach it to me, and then I wonder why I'm having such a hard time playing exactly the same way as them. But then when they show me I guess you could say generally how the arrangement goes, like the idea of it and the structure of it, then I go and play it, and I make little tweaks here and there of the way I would probably play it. Then it works better. So we don't sound exactly the same, but it is the same song or same arrangement or same style. But it's just a little different, tweaked here and there. I kind of look at that like the way we talk, like the minute differences in all of us as, just as people. We don't really have the same voice. We don't have the same timbre. There's subtle differences in all of our vocals and everything else in life with each individual. So it makes sense that only our music, our performance on whatever it be, piano, guitar, cello, flute, it makes sense that would sound a little different too. So I started embracing that as opposed to trying to sound exactly like somebody else. So I would hear cool ideas from a teacher or another guitar player, and I would just pick their brain real quick and go, "Hey, can you show me what that is right there? I'd be really thankful." And they show it to me, and I go, "Cool, got it, thanks." And then I, got a new tool to work with and tweak and mess with it on my own, as opposed to trying, doing exactly like them every single lesson, every single riff, all that stuff. I'd rather just take it and run with it and see what comes out, just raw.
Sure, and that's really exposing yourself to the best of both worlds, being able to get the behind the scenes look at how other guys are doing it, but allowing enough free form and liberty and freedom to express it in your own artistic way.
Yeah, I think it's important that you gotta have that. You gotta have that leeway. You gotta have that percentage of whatever may happen in there. It's just, it is the way it is. You can't fight it. You not with anything. Anything in life. Things are going to go a certain way that you didn't expect. So it's going to be that way with your music too, or because that's all inclusive. I have this thing that I'll tell people called, I don't know, it's a little something silly, I guess, but I call it the 80-20, and the 80%, 20%. And for my musician friends that find themselves trying to be perfectionists, they listen to a recording that they did or a video, and all they do when they see it is judge it. That's all they do. They judge it. They're like, "Oh, but this here, I could have did this, and I could have did this." Meanwhile, someone else watching it is just going, "Oh my God, that's awesome." So they're responding to their visceral response to it is just like they're enjoying it. Meanwhile, the person that made the video can't get past it because it's them. They can't separate from the mind and they see outside that. All they see is just them, and they're just going straight to negatives. They're creating those, and they're wanting to be 100% happy with it. And I try to tell them, you never will be. You never will be 100% happy with your art, with your creativity. It's just not going to happen. I said, so my, philosophy on it, if you will, is just to be 80% happy with it. Leave that 20% open for happy accidents, whatever you want to call it, because people say, oh, mistakes here. Well, that's subjective. You call it what you want, but leave that open, leave that room for quote unquote error in there, and become 80% happy with it. And then you'll put the product out, you'll put your work out, you'll put in, like Elliott Hulse says, and then, your serenity is achieved. You just step away from it. And then if you're 80% happy with it, the people listening are probably going to be 160% or 200% happy with it, because they're always going to enjoy it more than you. That's just the way it is. I've recorded stuff before and let people hear it, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. It's making me feel this. And meanwhile, I might be like, but that one section I could have did this, and this. I can't. You got to step away from it and look at it as a whole and listen to it and just invoke emotion. So I've really learned to embrace that kind of thinking, and it's changed everything. Just that perspective in the mind.
Yeah, totally. It's somewhat the curse of the musician or the artist, in that it's a fine line between what our vision is for what we might want to present to people versus what the actual product is. And like you said, a big part of the art is being okay with the human element, and oftentimes that human element is something less than pristine, but that's also what makes making music from a person more valuable. Well, of course, that's subjective, than from a computer.
Absolutely. That's what makes it beautiful. Like when I listen to a recording of, guitar players like Tommy Emmanuel, that guy is he's beyond great to me. I listen to him play and he just comes through the instrument, even in his recordings. You just so organic, so raw, so real. And I've heard people, criticize, and it's only guitar players doing this. Music lovers, it's only guitar players. I got some, uppity guitar player that's just like, well, I heard a string squeak at 33.9 seconds. I'm like, dude, no, you know what? No one cares. No one cares. First of all, string squeak, it's a hand on a guitar, on strings, moving around, making notes and chords and forming harmonies. It's going to happen because that's a part of guitar playing. And a guy asked him one time, he said, how do I avoid string squeaks? I said, oh, dude, there is a way you could do that. It's called don't ever play guitar.
Right.
It's the silliest thing to worry about that. Because if you sit there and go for this, wanting to be so perfect on the recording, and you keep just paralysis by analysis, you're just going to be stuck in this rut. You're never going to get out of it. And it's never going to be good enough. And if you do finally get a take that is something you're having, it's probably going to sound so robotic and so machine driven, it might as well have been put out by a type of software. Yeah. And I don't know about you. I mean, I wouldn't want to listen to that. Like when I listen to old Segovia recordings, I love it because it's so raw. It's just him, classical guitar, and a microphone, and just go. I love it just stripped down like that. And I wish so much that the music world would get back to those raw elements, because we're so far off that path now with digital stuff. And I understand technology has its advantages, but it's been breeding a lot of laziness too.
Totally.
And, that's where I'm coming from when it comes to just that rawness and realness and those kind of things. I think people should embrace that stuff, man. Because that, like Michael Hedges, man, oh gosh, you go listen to his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so emotional, you know, because he was a force of nature through the instrument, and he didn't even view the guitar as an instrument per se. He just viewed it as a vessel. He just views it as a thing to communicate through. If the guitar didn't exist, he would have found something else. You know, so that's beautiful. I mean, when I watch old videos of him, he would kick into a tune, and it was like just watching a hurricane come across the stage. Really something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you mentioned both Tommy Emmanuel and Segovia. I had the pleasure of seeing Tommy Emmanuel about sometime around 2008, I think, and I had like second row tickets.
Oh my God, dude.
And you know, it's funny. Obviously, as a guitar player, we always have that critical eye on whoever's playing. But what I was really surprised at was just how little I was actually thinking about his guitar playing during the concert.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because you get to enjoy the music.
Exactly. And of course that night I bought his I think his double live CD that he was promoting, and I listened to that, you know, for a very long time. And it's certainly something to be said, especially from one guitar player or any instrumentalist, and listening to that same instrument and being able to suspend judgment, even if it's subconsciously. I think that really speaks a lot to the, you know, certainly to the player and to the power of the musicality. And, you know, from Segovia, one of my classical guitar teachers, you know, he had made mention that I think it was his recording of the Villa Lobos Studio One, the really, really fast arpeggio piece, that he really had some, I mean, especially from the classical world, some cojones going out and playing it so damn fast, and how a lot of his stuff, you know, like you said, may not have been perfect, but... Yeah,
that's amazing stuff, man. Yeah. I love it when those guys that have the courage to trust it, because it even tells you that they were concerned at one time about what a certain community was going to think. Like, what's everybody going to think, though, if I do this? What's going to... And then they finally just embraced the thought of, I don't know what they thought exactly, but something that changed their course of just like, you know what? Screw it. I don't care. This is what I do. You live one time, and I'm going to own this. And they just roll with it. And that's really the mentality you got to have. Like, you know, you just, with anything in life, you just do it. You find your passion for it, and you hone it the best you can, and you always continue to hone it, and you go after it. You have no regard. You don't concern yourself with, like, people that are, well, you probably shouldn't do it. Well, I like doing it that way, so that's going to happen. Well, I'm not going to attend your show. Well, I won't see you there then. You know, not a big deal. Not a big deal, but you don't change yourself to try and pacify people, you know. And I see that a lot. And then you guys like the Michael Hedges and the Tommy Emmanuel type folks that have the courage to step out and do something completely new and not worry about what people think. At first they get criticized like crazy, and then what happens? Everybody comes on board and they're like, oh, yeah, I love them. Oh, they're the best. They're so this. But before, you can bet they were getting like critiqued. You should probably not do that. You probably, like when Hedges would tap on his guitar, do percussion, like people are like, oh, you can't do that. You can't beat on your guitar. Why? Like, look at a drum. What a drum is made of wood. Like, there's mahogany drums, there's maple drums, you know, rosewood drums. There's mahogany guitars, maple guitars, rosewood guitars. It just happens to have strings on it, so I can't beat on. No, you do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You know, a guitar is not designed to be played with the feet either, but a man that has no arms figures it out. Right. You know, if he understand that's like the most powerful thing that blew my mind when I saw this guy on YouTube. And there's several, but this one dude in particular, you know, the people would say, oh, he's so naturally talented. I hear that a lot, like naturally talented. And I don't really believe in the word talent per se. I believe in desire and work. And I think that's what it comes down to, because no one would ever assume that a man walking around with no arms, they would never say, oh, I bet he's naturally talented on the guitar. Like, they would never say it. But then all of a sudden he sits down, he's just playing the guitar with his feet, his toes, and he's playing really well, like better than most people will ever play with their hands. He's playing these beautiful songs, and it's affecting people. Now everybody wants to say, oh, he's naturally talented, he just got it. No, he worked his butt off. He probably cried and sweat tears like crazy, you know, to just get that thing to make a chord, or just to figure out how he was going to communicate, because he wants to play. And then it happens. Then everybody wants to start saying it's natural talent. It's natural talent. No, he has a desire for music, and he worked really, really, really hard. And after he got done working really hard, he worked some more.
Yeah. That's
what it comes down to. So I read that book, you know, Talent is Overrated, and that was really powerful stuff. You can look around at anything now. It makes you look at anything in life that people do, and people that they don't ever say, like, I know this is a strange analogy, but like no one ever says, like, a semi-truck driver. You know, I'm from South Georgia, and I used to see semi-truck drivers all the time at the truck stop. And so nobody ever says that those guys are guys and girls. They don't ever say that they're talented, you know, but they're operating this massive piece of machinery with 18 gears that you have to know how to maneuver down a highway and turn a certain way. It took work, just like an instrument, but no one will ever say, oh, they're so talented they can drive that semi. Why? Because it's more of a commonality. You see a lot of semi-trucks. You see but you don't see as many musicians and guitar players, you know, because people, they limit themselves in their mind and think, well, I could never do that. That's a guitar. That's a piano. I can't do that. So I'll just, right there, you squashed it. You just squashed it in your own head, and now you never will. You'd be amazed what you can accomplish with work. If you have the desire for it, you go after it, and you figure out how to work towards it. You don't get intimidated. You get inspired, and it grows from there. But so many people squash it in their brain first, and then it's gone forever. Whereas something like a job, you know, I could go out and get a job as a truck driver, as a welder, working on a farm, all that stuff. People will go after that because that seems attainable, because society has said, oh, yes, you can go do these things. You know, you can go do these. Now, you still have to learn. You still have to study. You still have to, quote, unquote, practice, because it is a type of practice. Like when I was learning to be a welder, when I was laying down welding beads on stuff that were horrible, that was a type of practice. And I got better and better and better at it. So I guess you could say I became talented at welding. But, you know, it's people look at all those things in society, all the, I guess you say, the normal things in the job world, and so many people can do those things, but then they limit themselves when it comes to things like the abstract or the creative. But they'd be amazed what they can accomplish if they really would just embrace it and try. They'll try for more than a day. Most people will go get a guitar and they'll pick it up and go, oh, I'm going to start playing guitar. They're all excited. And they pick it up and are like, oh, I can't make it do what that guy does. No, I'm going to sell it. Well, it's going to take you got to equate that to anything else in your life. That took work too. Even when you got your driver's license, you know, that took some effort. You had to focus on the brake and the gas pedal and the steering wheel and the gears. You know, now you just do it like it's second nature. So try to give people that analogy sometimes, that perspective, when they want to learn something like the guitar, that it's going to take some focus and some practice and some work. You know, not so much natural talent, but put your hard work into it, and you got to love it. That's where it really starts, that desire. So that's why the guy with no arms, that's why he could figure out how to play that thing so well, because he absolutely desired to, and he just made it happen. So I just think that stuff's powerful. It just shows you the power of our mind.
Yeah, it's such a valuable lesson. You know, over the course of time, you're going to get good at whatever you do. So if you just don't do anything, you're not going to get good at it.
Yeah, you don't do anything at all, you won't get good at anything. You've got to hone it. It's something, some of it's out of necessity. People learn they have to do things, because they have to make a living. They have to do this. And, 90%, I read a great quote the other day. I think was it Woody Allen? I hope that's the right name of the quote, but it's an incredible quote. It's like 90% of life is just showing up.
Yeah.
Like, just show up. And I know a lot of musicians that are scared to do things. They're like, because they automatically assume in their head that they're not going to be good enough, they're not going to be this, and they're going to get rejected. So instantly they're worried about their ego. They're worried about getting their feelings hurt. Well, nobody's going to. It's like, so who cares? Do you love it? Do you love to play? Do you love sharing? Have you touched one person's life in your life with what you do? Then there you go. That's enough to go do it. And they'll limit themselves right there, though, and go, well, no, but I won't be accepted by this or that. Well, you don't know until you show up. 90% of it showing up. You can't just wait by a phone and just expect it to ring and people just to know where to find you. But you have to go out there and expose yourself. And Tommy Emmanuel had a great quote too. He said, "Life is not a rehearsal. You better get started." I thought that was really powerful. That was very powerful.
So, Shaun, you certainly you mentioned the importance of having that spark and that motivation, something to get you started, and obviously inspiring other people. I'm curious, was there a particular song or guitar player that really thrilled you and kind of spurred you on in your first phase of learning guitar?
Yeah, when it came to the fingerstyle stuff and just the interesting sound of hearing multiple parts at the same time, there was two guitar players in particular. The first one, his name is Bill Brown, and he's just a guitar teacher in Valdosta, Georgia, but he's very, very talented. And I was leaving a lesson one night. I was having bass guitar lessons, and I was leaving a lesson one night, and I heard this sound as I walked around the door, or walked out of his office, getting ready to leave. He started playing an arrangement of Blue Moon, fingerstyle arrangement, jazz style. And it sounded like four people playing the guitar. I was blown away, and I instantly backed up, and I said, "What is that? What is that you're playing?" He said, "Oh, this is a song called Blue Moon." I said, "I know the song, but how and what in the world are you doing?" He said, "Oh, it's called fingerstyle guitar." And I was taking bass lessons. And in that moment, I said, okay, I don't want to take bass lessons anymore. I want to do that. It was so powerful. And I started learning a little bit of that style from him. And then I met a great guitar player named Sam Passetti, who lives in St. Augustine, Florida, who is, to this day, one of the most underrated guitar players. He's an unknown. He's not famous by any means, but my God, man, what a talent. This guy can sing like a bird, and he can play circles around just about anybody I know. He's absurdly good. It's not even fair how good the guy is. And he's a really nice guy, and I got to take lessons with him. I heard him play for the first time, and I didn't know a guitar could sound like that. So the bar was set really, really high for me right from the get-go. I heard this guy play and was like, wow. So I started studying with him and taking lessons with him, and it just went from there. I started getting into all the styles, classical music and Irish music and jazz. Started listening to Martin Taylor, and after meeting Sam, it just exposed me to so many other guitar players. I'd never heard of Tommy Emmanuel, so I started listening to Tommy. Never heard of Michael Hedges, listened to Hedges. Don Ross, he's just an incredible songwriter. His compositions are amazing. And then that led to, more guitar players like Buster B. Jones, who else? There's so many. I said Martin Taylor, Andy McKee, and Andy is truly an innovator. Anton DeFore, I mean, there's so many, man. But yeah, it's a beautiful world of music out there, and I just keep getting exposed all the time to more and more, and I use it as inspiration. You know, every once in a while I see like a little kid, I think I saw this little like Spanish kid. He's like 6 years old on YouTube, and he was playing like the most incredible fluid arrangement of "My Heart Will Go On" from the Titanic theme. And it was unbelievable. He's six, seven. He was a little kid, and he's nailing it. And I get so inspired when I see that. I'm like, dude, that's what I'm talking about. This little kid with his tiny little hands is playing this beautiful arrangement, like, and he's nailing it. And he wasn't even just like, you know, it wasn't like, oh, that's cute, he's trying. Like, no, seriously, this was like concert performance, incredible. And that stuff's really inspiring to me. So I take it, and it keeps me going, you know. It just shows me the beauty of music and the effect it has on people.
Yeah. So I've seen some pictures of you with some pretty famous guys. What tell us about maybe some of your concert and performance highlights over the years?
Oh, well, you know, a few years ago, I was up in Atlanta, Georgia, and I got word that Tim Reynolds from the Dave Matthews Band was coming to do a show, and he's another sensational guitar player. He's like a guitar player I've never heard make a mistake.
Right.
I don't think I've heard him mess up yet. Really an underrated player. He deserves more recognition than he gets. But he was coming to do a show, and I submitted to open for him. And it took a few months, and I got it. And next thing you know, I'm going up to Atlanta. I'm opening for Tim Reynolds, and I got to meet him. Really cool dude. And I got invited to go play some more shows with him, you know, around Georgia, the Carolinas, Alabama, down into Florida. And it was just a blast. I'm getting to open for Tim Reynolds at all these shows, Tim and his band TR3. And we're having a great time, and incredible experience for me. So I got to network with him, and we actually become good friends. And, you know, he gets me into the Dave shows every once in a while when he's in the area. I'll stop by and see him and say hello. And, you know, he's playing a big amphitheater for 20,000 people. You know, and then after that, I got the chance to play at a beautiful venue, beautiful theater, 3,000-seat venue called Ruth Eckerd Hall. I got a call to open for B.B. King. And I was like, okay, I would love to. So I got open for B.B. King, and that turned into more gigs. I got to open for B.B. once, and then I got several more gigs across the Southeast with him. And then I go out to the NAMM show in Los Angeles for some of my sponsors. One of my sponsors is AER Amplification. They make the best acoustic amps on the market. They really are just amazing. Any acoustic guitar player should check them out. They sent me to the NAMM show, and then you know, playing for Stevie Wonder. He's there walking around, and Stevie Wonder comes walking by, and I'm playing for him, and got to hang out with him, get to chat with him for a bit. So that was really something. You know, I opened for the Gypsy Kings one time. That was an interesting experience. And then a lot of other great musicians too, like the California Guitar Trio, John Jorgensen. He's a great guitar player. Plays all the gypsy jazz stuff.
Yeah.
As well as, you know, incredible Telecaster player, like all the country stuff. Yeah, I just, you know, having fun, man, opening for these guys and stuff. And at the same time, just trying to do what I do, because now I have an agent, and I get to go and headline my own theater shows and play for people. So, you know, that's fun. And then, you know, sometimes when I'm just off, not really doing much, just hanging out, I just go down the street and I just go hang out at restaurants and just play background music. You know, like nobody knows who I am. It's not a big deal, and I just, you know, doesn't pay very much, but you get a free meal and you get to just play some background music, and it is what it is. You know, it's a good way to practice too. But yeah, after playing a lot of those big gigs, a lot of people have said things to me like, well, man, it must be weird when you go back to playing, really small, like coffee shop, a restaurant. It's got to be depressing. I'm like, why in the world would it be depressing? No, that's the perspective you're coming from with trying to please your ego. Whereas I just want to play music. If I can play music, in my living room, I can play on a sidewalk, anywhere. I can turn into a stage. I don't need the quantity of numbers to make me feel like I'm enjoying myself playing music. Yeah, is it fun? Yeah, it's a good time when you get a big crowd and you get them singing along and clapping and having fun. That's great. But you always want to come back to the music at the end of it, not the satisfaction that you're trying to get from people applauding you. And I maintain that perspective, and I'm able to stay happy and smiling on the inside all the time because I did feel that one time, when I got off tour and I went back to playing small gigs and I felt very depressed. And then I identified with that feeling. I was like, oh, that's not a big deal. It's just, that's me just wanting to play for a bunch of people. That's just my ego. And as soon as I acknowledged it, once I acknowledged it, it went away. I was like, oh, okay, not a big deal. And I went back to playing. Like I would play for one person the same way I would play for 1,000, or 10,000. It didn't matter at that point. It was all relative to me. I just like to play first. And I think that's the way Tommy, those guys look at it too. I think you put them anywhere and they're just going to enjoy themselves.
Yeah, that's a very good point about the ego and how that can in many different ways kind of creep into your playing, but it's the same idea that how you do one thing is how you do all things. So if you're going to play for 10,000 people or play for 2 or 3 people, it really in the long run doesn't matter because you're playing music as much for yourself and for the sake of the music as for like you said, whatever ego identity might have input there. So it's a very good point.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how that, I don't know, it just, that whole ego thing, it creeps up on you, but once you learn to recognize it, then it really takes away a lot of its power. When you recognize it's there, you're like, oh, I totally see that. It's not a big deal. I read another great quote the other day that said, I think it was a Shakespeare quote. It said, there is no good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And it was like profound. I'm like, who thinks of this stuff? That was amazing. But these quotes, these are guys back in the day, and they're saying this stuff and really profound, powerful stuff that can help a lot of people today. But I keep all that stuff, in the back of my mind when I'm doing what I do. And if I'm playing a show and I meet a young guitar player that's aspiring, and he's talking to me and he says things like, oh man, I look up to you so much, I can never do what you do. And I stop him right there. That's that. I say, thank you for coming to the show, but let me stop you right there. You could most definitely do what I'm doing. And I try to just teach him in that moment to eliminate what he just said. Don't ever say it again, because you'll tell yourself that and you'll believe it. And I'll just nip it in the bud for him right there. And a lot of this stuff, this type of thinking I've learned from Elliott Hulse. A lot of just, expression, and because Elliott helped me a tremendous amount. And now I like to, at my shows and stuff, when I meet people like that, I like to try to pay it forward with that sort of expression, teach them that, hey, at the end of the day, man, we're all just people. It's not a big deal. Like, do what you're going to do, express it. It's your life. Do it. And then, sometimes, and this is going pretty crazy with it, I guess, or pretty out there, but sometimes I'll think of the grand scheme of the whole big picture of like the cosmos and the, how massive and incomprehensible our cosmos is. And I'll think about, okay, here we are on this little bitty dot. So anything that's making us feel like we're massive or huge is definitely in our mind, Because when you think about, like, I looked up some like Neil deGrasse Tyson. I love watching that guy, and I was looking at some stuff he was saying about, the largest star. That's on record. It's called Canis Majoris, and it literally makes our Earth. I mean, let's put it this way: it makes our sun look like smaller than that of a sneeze out of a gnat. Like it's it's so minute, and to think, oh, okay, and then we're so much smaller than our sun. So anything that we're feeling, like, yeah, I'm larger than life, I'm this, I'm that. Not really. You're just another person on this planet. So just do whatever you're going to do for yourself. Share positivity, and enjoy it while you can. Because I mean, we're obviously not the end all. We're not the center of the universe.
Right, and that reminds me of I think it was maybe a video from like the 70s or early to mid 80s, and I think it's called like the 100x factor or something like that, and it's like a 5-minute video that I think they produce for public schools, but it starts by showing like this couple having a picnic, and then it zooms in and zooms in and zooms in to the past the cellular level down to the subatomic level.
Oh wow!
And it's all like one theoretical like frame, and then it zooms out, and then it zooms out to the planet, and then to the solar system, et cetera, et cetera. And then it comes right back to the same couple on the hill, having a picnic, and for as small as we may be, we're also that big, and like you said, it's all about that. It's all about your perspective, and certainly if you can, I think that teaches a good lesson about you being present to the moment, and that healthy abandon that ideally you can express through your music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, living in the moment is really like what's the guy, the famous guy, Eckhart Tolle?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got so many profound things to say. It's ridiculous. I'm just blown away by that guy, his demeanor, and how he just communicates it in the most calmest manner and gets the point across. But no, it's true. He's, all we really have is the now. To get stressed out about the past or to be anxious about the future, when all you have is this moment. And I know it's hard to stay in that. It can be. We kind of, as people, we bounce back and forth like Pong. We go to the past, we think about the future. We go to the past, we think about the future. We have no control over those. It is kind of crazy when you really think about it, but I think it's just another thing that takes practicing, though. You have to hone it. Like thinking, this type of thinking that I've learned to embrace, and these quotes and these things that have helped me, and the bioenergetics that I learned from Elliott, those have been tremendous helps for me. But I had to practice them. I had to put them into practice. I had to try them, and when I did, I felt incredible. The other day I was doing bioenergetics. I was feeling anxious, and I had the tools to help it go away. I pulled over, and I took my shirt off, and I went into a asphalt parking lot, and the sun was just blazing down, and there's cars and traffic, there's people riding by, and I just did my bioenergetics right there that helped me calm my nervous system. It really helped me calm my nervous system and get that energy out and ground me. And I know as soon as I came back to, and I see people just staring at me and just looking, and it just didn't faze me at all. And I was just like, because how I got to thinking, I was like, wow, that's really powerful. Like, I know these people are probably thinking a number of things, and that's okay. They're going to think what they're going to think anyway. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to get my energy out. I'm going to express myself and enjoy this sunlight. And it's not going to faze me at all. And it did. It was great to do that. And then come back to and then see all these people just kind of like they're more rattled than I was from my anxiety from whatever caused me to get anxious. You know, I'm looking at the people in their cars and they're just like, oh, what is that guy doing? What is he? What is he? Oh, is he okay? Is he on drugs? And it is comical. It kind of makes me laugh because anything that's not considered the norm, and you're doing something, people are gonna, oh, watch out for that guy. He's not walking a straight line with 2 feet, hands side by side, and acting nervous like the rest of us. So he must be off. I just thought it was interesting, and I don't know. I get into some pretty strange thinking sometimes because I would look around and see animals, squirrels, birds, and stuff, you know, and thinking like, they're doing their thing. Like they're doing the thing with instinct and survival mechanisms. They're just doing their thing day to day. But no one's driving by in their car. Nobody's staring up at them. Nobody's making an egotistical judgment towards whatever it is they're doing. You know, but when it comes to a person, it's a whole other thing. Right? Even though, you know, animalistic as we are, and the characteristics that we share, cardiovascular system, nervous system, digestive system, vision, blood flow, we have so many similar characteristics because we are indeed animals. But we have these emotions and ego, and that's where everything comes into play with the brain. So it's getting out of that I was just going pretty off topic and deep with it from guitar playing, but I just experience that stuff sometimes, and it all comes back to my guitar playing. It all keeps me in a place where I'm just going to go, okay, I'm going to do this and express myself, and I'm going to have no concern for what anyone thinks of it. Whoever chooses to embrace it and enjoy it, great. Whoever doesn't, just as great. You know, I look at them both the same because I do it for me first, and then whoever feels anything afterward is, you know, whether it's good or bad subjectively, is totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think pretty much any form of whatever you might want to put under the broad umbrella of self-improvement or self-development, to me, you know, for as long as I've been playing guitar, I've always had an intrinsic understanding that all of this stuff is very, very applicable to the practice of music, to the performance of music, because it comes from where else but yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess to kind of wrap up, Shaun, you briefly mentioned Elliott Hulse, and that's certainly where I was first exposed to you and your playing through the Strength Camp YouTube channel. If you wouldn't mind, maybe just kind of in a nutshell, what are some of the lessons that you've gleaned from Elliott?
Well, I told Elliott this. I never thought I'd get to meet him. You know, when I did finally get to meet him and get to know him, and his presence and the courage that he has to put out the content that he does, that was so, and I told him this, it was so inspiring. He's the most inspiring individual I've ever came across, I've ever met, because he shares it just all the time. He shares his thoughts, and he puts this stuff out to only help better mankind and to help people. And it's really, really powerful. So when I actually got to meet him and I told him, you know, what was going on with me with my anxiety, you know, I had a neuromuscular tension all over the place. Like, you know, my jaw ticks, my arms would tick every once in a while. Like I would have these uncontrollable tics, and he would tell me, he said, I never knew what it was. You know, he said, dude, you got an overload of data in your brain. He said, you got too much going on, dude. He said, you gotta get this out. You gotta express it. And he gave me these valuable lessons on how depression, the opposite of depression being expression. He said, you get out of it by expressing. He said, you won't get out of depression or anxiety the same way that you got into it, through the mind. You're going to get out of it through physiology, through the expression of you know, using your body, your nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system. And see, I didn't know anything about this stuff, man. at all. And I was just blown away. And when he had me start to try some techniques, and the way that I felt physically and mentally, I'd never felt. I was like, I don't know what you just did or what you just showed me, but it was so incredible. It made me question, like, the time that I went to doctors to get Lexapro or, anti-anxiety or antidepressant medication. It made me question all that. And I was like, man, this is amazing. This type, just expressing, just going the other way. You have a choice. You go in, you depress, you go out, you express. And it works. I mean, just simple things like, obviously training and exercise, is a form of, engaging in the sympathetic nervous system and expression. But also just focused meditation in the mind. I never knew about those things. Things like grabbing a pillow and just screaming into it, and not necessarily out of any sort of like anger, like, oh, I'm a mad person, but just for you're expressing, like an animal in the wild, like a lion just roaring out loud in a jungle somewhere. He just does it. He's getting out some energy, and then he's going to go about his day. I just thought that stuff was really powerful. So yeah, Elliott Hulse is like the most inspiring dude that I've ever met. And he's helped literally millions of people. And he just continues to grow. And, he's a hell of a dude, man. And, like a Renaissance man, the knowledge that he has. So it's just, and I tell people about him all the time because it's what's helped me. And I pay those messages forward to other people. And not even any sort of like religious type way or cult type way, just a way that works. It's a way that works. So when I come across somebody that's like, man, I feel really depressed, I don't want to do anything, I will try right there in that moment to have them engage in some bioenergetics. No matter how uncomfortable they may, well, that's going to feel weird, people are going to look, and I'll just say, hey, you don't care. You don't care, I don't care, nobody's judging. We're just going to do this, because watch how you're going to feel in about 5 minutes. And when I get them to do it, they're blown away. They're blown away with the way they feel. And I just tell them to not go in. Always go out, always express. Because when you go in, that overloaded data was what happened to me. And it spills over. And I never knew that stuff was legit. But Elliott, he educated me on that. And that overload of data in the mind. Stress, everything, thinking too much about the past, worrying about the future, just taking in information constantly. It will start to spill over into your physiology. And it's going to come out in some shape, form, or fashion, whether it's like a high cortisol level, your endocrine system is out of whack, your hormones get out of balance, a twitch in some muscles, a number of things can happen from it. So meditation is so important, and just learning to just relax and just chill, just take time for yourself and just don't think. So that's some of the most valuable stuff I've learned from Elliott. I know he's got a lot of training ideas, and he knows a lot about getting bodybuilding and strength training and all that stuff. But I think the most valuable stuff he has to offer is his intellect and the way he shares what goes on in the mind, because that inevitably will lead to all those other things. You get that in check first, and all that other stuff comes aftermarket. It's like you're treating the cause and not a symptom. You're going after what's going to control it, what's going to help you do all of these other things. And I think that's the most powerful thing that he passed on, he bestowed to me. And I still go watch his videos all the time, because he's just got a lot of great things to say. But yeah, it was just on YouTube. Got exposed to him there, and I took a chance and got to go meet him. And it was a great day. I had a blast.
Awesome. Well, Shaun, I want to say I really do appreciate the time that you've taken to chat today, and you've provided some awesome value and obviously a lot of cool insight. I just have a couple of quick questions to kind of finish up. I suppose one would be, where can people find you online?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. We were having so many great conversations. So forgive me, I do go off on a lot of tangents, I know, but
that's great.
it's that data overload again. They can just go to ShaunHopper.com. It's ShaunHopper. I'm on Facebook as well, just like the whole world is on Facebook. They can go to iTunes also if anybody's interested in previewing some songs. If they find anything that strikes a chord with them, no pun intended, and they want to download it, they can buy one song or they can download the albums, whichever. And also YouTube. Go to Shaun Hopper. Just type in Shaun Hopper on YouTube. ShaunHopper. And I got a bunch of videos up and stuff, and people can go there and decide whether they dig it or not, and they can come to a show.
Awesome. And I certainly hope that I get to catch one of your concerts soon.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. It'd be awesome. We hang out, we jam. It'd be fun.
Totally. And I guess just to wrap up, and you can just feel free to wrap on whatever kind of comes up off the top of your head, but is there any particular either song or piece or performance or album that you might point to as a pinnacle of guitar playing?
Oh, absolutely. Well, there's so many, but if I were to name 3 records, oh gosh, I don't want to leave anybody out, but I want to name 3 albums. Michael Hedges' Breakfast in the Field is just incredible. It's such a profound album. And then next will be Don Ross, Passion Session. That is the most incredible tone and compositions on that album. And gosh, third, I would say Sam Passetti, Solitary Travel. Yeah, Sam. And keep in mind, if you listen to Sam Passetti's Solitary Travel, he recorded that when he was 20 years old. So if you go check it out, it's crazy to think that a guy was playing that well at 20 years old. So those 3, I'd say Michael Hedges, Breakfast in the Field, and Don Ross, Passion Session, Sam Passetti, Solitary Travel. And obviously there's many, many more that I didn't mention that I don't, would never want to leave anybody out. Tommy's records are phenomenal. Martin Taylor, Leo Cocky, all those guys. But those are the 3 I would, right off the top of my head, that I would pick.
Awesome. Well, Shaun, once again, really appreciate your time. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. And let's see, is there anything that you want to wrap on before we leave?
Oh man, I just want to thank you for reaching out and wanting to have a conversation. I always like chatting with like-minded folks and sharing ideas and talking music and all that stuff. So I just, like I said, I appreciate your time as well. I think we were only supposed to talk 20 minutes, but we ended up talking an hour and 1 minute. So it's all good. It was fun, and we'll do this again soon.
Well, thanks for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Shaun. You can find this episode and all of the show notes at sixstringstrength.com/3. If you're listening on iTunes, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. And be sure to connect on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at 6stringstrength. And until next time, play hard.